Welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. My name's Speir, and I'm going to be your guide to enjoying the great outdoors. How many times have you ever got out into the woods and because of some kind of environmental factor or something happened? It's usually, Murphy follows me around a lot, especially when I'm shooting videos. And if it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. But how many times have you ever got out into the woods and due to some factor, you could not get a fire started? Happens to me all the time. But there's a big but there. It's not that big of a deal. And let me tell you why, and I'm going to walk you through it. But first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. And I really do appreciate all the people out there with the feedback and everything I'm getting from the podcast. I really do appreciate everything, all the videos, everybody watching the videos and stuff like that. So anyway, let's dive into it. So right here, we're in the book still, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft. And we're on page 146. And in general, if you have dry tinder, so last week we talked about dry tinder, kindling and fuel, oxygen and stuff like that, recycle, symbol, stuff like that. It was relatively short because, when it gets to this kind of stuff, I'm starting to feel like, this is the second time through this book. And once we did a real overview, and now we're just kind of like, just talking more in depth. So we're going to just take a little bit less, a slow down approach. And we're just going to talk about a couple ways to start fire today. But anyway, in general, if you have dry tinder, kindling and fuel, as well as a simple lighter, getting a fire going, it's going to be fairly easy. It's not going to be very hard at all. But life, especially in a survival or camping setting, happens. It's not always straightforward. It's not always going to be straightforward. For me, it never is straightforward. And that's why it's helpful to know how to build a fire under even the most extreme conditions. And I can't stress that enough. You have to get out there and practice. You have to be able to practice. And case in point, we'll pause right there on the book, and we'll start going over some of this stuff here. You have to be able to practice. Now, right here is a little survival flint and steel or ferro rod from a big box store that starts with a W and ends with a mark. And this comes together as a nice little package. Comes with a little rope, where you can hang on to it. You're not going to lose it. And you can feed it through a belt loop, and you ain't got to worry about losing it. And the way it's on there is kind of awkward, but it does very well at throwing sparks. And you can tell I have used this thing a tremendous amount of time. And I started off with one of these, and this is what I started the entire Speir Outdoors with, was this little doohickey right here. And this was the absolute first ferro rod that I ever purchased on the counter. So, all right. So we all know that ferro rods are great. I've done videos, stuff like that, on ferro rods. What is ferrocerium? How to use a ferro rod. I've done so many videos on, starting fires that it starts to get very repetitive. And, it can happen to anybody. You start getting burned out with doing the same old thing over and over and over again. But, this being the first ferro rod I ever had, I had to learn how to use this thing, because before, and this, we're talking 12, 13, 14 years ago, the first emergency ferro rod I ever bought. And before that, all I ever used was lighters and matches. And, but the big lighter, and there's going to be some of your traditionalists that are like, no, you can't use a big lighter. You got to do a bow drill. Sorry, I'm going to do a big lighter, if I got a big lighter with me. And usually I do. In my fire kit, I got a big lighter. But that brings me to one of these right here. This is the arc lighters, and it's going to throw an electric arc right there. And it does pretty good at lighting stuff, but the problem with that is the electricity in it is going to run down pretty quick, and it's not going to be as effective as a flame from a big lighter. Granted, a big lighter has fuel, and it has a propane inside of it. The fuel can, it won't work under 32 degrees if it's freezing outside. There's all kinds of little variables in there that everybody should know by now. But, the art lighter is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It can be useful. You can have it in your bag. Sure, go for it. But you're always going to have a backup source. Now, what I have in my hands right here, if you're not watching the video, you're actually listening to the podcast itself, is a art lighter by Blackbeard Fire Starters. Now, I've talked about the Blackbeard Fire Starters in the last episode, that I carry them things with me everywhere I go. I got them in my hunting bag right now, and I take them with me whenever I go out, and because they are the easiest way, without a big lighter, the easiest way to start a fire. And you just throw a spark from one little bitty spark from one of these little bitty ferro rods, and you are good to go. So you got a fire. And I've done it countless times, countless weather conditions. You cannot, the Blackbeard fire starter is going to light no matter how long it's soaked in water. It's ridiculous. So now, moving right along. A little bitty ferro rod, like this Exotech. I did this for another app called Flip, where, I ordered some stuff off of there, and you do a video on it and make content for them, and then you get paid commissions and stuff like that. And so I ordered one of these to try it out. Now, although this is not something that I would carry with me in the woods as my main source to light a fire, but this is something that I carry in my pocket every single day with this little bitty, Fox Vulpus knife. It's kind of like a army knife, Swiss Army knife. It's got scissors on there. It's got a nice little saw. I'm not going to slice my hand open trying to get that saw out. But anyway, it's got can openers, stuff of that sort, that nature. It's just like a little Swiss Army knife. This little ferro rod is very cumbersome with this striker. So it's always best if you have some other way to do it, like a, where are you at? Come on. There we go. So that's why I carry the knife with it. The striker doesn't work as well, and I'm trying to figure out, still, this knife, on that video I did, this knife was expensive. And I'm like, is it worth the price? Thank God they gave me a discount. But it was like $80 for this little knife, and I ended up getting it for like 15 or something like that, using all my discounts and stuff. But I mean, you can start a fire with this little bitty Exotech ferro rod, but you have to have something to bring to strike it with, because the striker that comes with it is horrible. And that's just my personal opinion. So, but anyway, these little things, I always recommend having something like this. That's on my EDC. This is actually, technically, this is in my front right pocket every time I leave the house. Is that right there? That's it. That's it. That's all I carry as far as EDC. I'm able to start a fire. I'm able to cut my way out of something. I'm able to carve things if I need to. So now, moving right along, boy, I have got something on my nose here that is itching. I think my beard is tickling me. But anyway, excuse me. So moving right along, moving on up, we got another ferro rod. Now, this came from a fella. I did a review on a rocket stove, and he sent one of his ferro rods with me too. It looks like a 50 cal shell with a ferro rod built into it, glued in there, and it's pretty cool. You got You got the lanyard all the way back through where it's not going to slide out. So you're not going to lose the handle or anything like that. And this thing is awesome at starting a fire. Now these will start a fire no matter where you're at or what you're doing. If you have one of these, the only drawback to this is that this is extremely heavy. This is, I'd say 7 or 8 ounces. Like this is pretty heavy. This is a 1/2 inch by 8 inch, I guess. And it can start a fire anywhere. I've started many fires with it. It doesn't take a lot of strikes as long as you do like we did the last time preparing your tinder. All right. You can prepare that tinder and have it ready to go to where it accepts a spark, and that spark is just going to immediately throw it into flames. Now, if you had like a flash tinder, like cattail or something like that, it's going to be almost like gasoline. You know, but then all of a sudden you have to have something else to catch that flame as well whenever that flash tinder goes off. And so you're going to have really processed down some kind of bark or, you know, natural fibers or something to that effect in order to render your tinder useful, your flash tinder useful. So now we're going to move on to this one. And this, if you've heard about the company Prepared 4X, this is it's a wick and bellow system with a ferro rod in it. And so this is some waxed hemp rope, something to that effect. And what you do is you really just, you make these fibers all nice and loose. So you just twist them up, you scrape it and stuff like that. Now, and then you scrape and make a spark. I'm not trying to burn down my studio in here. I don't have everything set up for that. But you will light this rope, and this waxed rope stays lit, and you're able to use it like a candle to light a fire. I have plenty of videos of that on my website, on my YouTube page, and, you know, linked to my website, Speir Outdoors. All right, so now we're moving on to my absolute favorite way to start a fire in the woods. These guys are amazing, and these are the absolute best way to start a fire. They are the absolute best fire starter on the market today, and you don't see a lot of people talking about them, but these are the most amazing fire starters. You can start fires in any condition with these fire starters. And what we have is the all-weather fire starter. Now, I do not make a commission off of these, but you do get like 10% off on the sales. This is the big one. And it has a little compass on the handle, which I'm not too worried about that because I wouldn't use that anyway. I use my regular compass in the bag, in my backpack. But it has a magnesium block. This is a magnesium block. And then it has a ferro rod. Now, it looks like that's a 1/4 inch ferro rod. Yeah, it's about a 1/4 inch ferro rod. And it's a 1/2 inch block, or a little bit bigger than 1/2 inch of magnesium. And you just scrape you off a piece of that magnesium and just keep scraping you a pile on whatever it is that you want to ignite. And you flip this dude over and you just... and it, poof, there it goes. And this striker that comes with it is amazing. This is one of the most amazing fire starters I have ever used. I've used a lot. I've used a bunch of, you know, everything from flint and steel all the way to just common ferro rods that you get at Walmart, and you know, big lighters and everything like that. Yeah, big lighters, great. And, you know, but big lighters can run out. Big lighters can break. Big lighters can get lost. And a lot of times a big lighter is going to get lost. But in my little hands right here is the all-weather fire starter. And that's the name of it, allweatherfirestarters.com. And you can go by there and use Speir, I believe Speir. I'll put the link and everything in this video description for you guys. But these are the best. These are the absolute best fire starters on the market today. And if you have a better fire starter than this one right here, let me know. and we will hash it out. And, because I don't think they get any better than this at all. Now, this is the big model with the wooden handle here. Now, the only thing I don't like about this is there's adjustment screws here and here. And that is so you could reorder another piece of magnesium and put back down in here and tighten it down. Now, you do the same thing with this handle, and that handle gets real loose here. That's the only thing I don't like about this. But, and there's a but there. Let me show you the alternative to that with this same model. You have the smaller version here, which does not have the big handle, and it's the same everything from there down, except for it does not have the handle going inside here. It still has your compass there, it still has your lanyard and all that. It's got your adjustment screw right there for you to replace your magnesium block and all that good stuff. But I'm telling you right now, this I wish I had a fire plate in here, but this, it throws amazing sparks. It throws amazing heat. I mean, this thing showers the sparks. I've done countless videos with this on my YouTube page, and I'll put a video. I'll put the links to all the videos in here. So that's it. That's what this thing does. I mean, it's amazing how well these things work. You could use them in whatever capacity you want to use them. I mean, these things are amazing. So anyway, that's it. As far as these are my favorite fire starting devices. I'll leave them a link to them in the description and then the show notes of this video right here, and of this episode of this podcast. And these items, and there's many more, and I discuss them all throughout the book, but these items right here can save your life. And these items right here, it practice with them. You don't have to carry a ferro rod into the woods. You could carry a lighter. You could carry 6 lighters. I get that all the time from a lot of my people, a lot of people. I had to check my thing. Anyway, a lot of people come on my comment section and they just eat me up saying, yeah, you could carry a lighter. Yeah, you could carry a lighter. Yeah, you could carry a lighter. Absolutely, you can carry a lighter. Anybody could carry a lighter with them in the woods. But, and this is out there a little bit, but if you lost your lighter, if you forgot to bring a lighter, if you didn't have one with you, if it cracked, if it broke, if it's frozen outside and you can't get it to work, if it's fluid is gone in it, or it ran out, or your thumb hurts and you can't get it to light because you didn't take the thumb guard off of it, or any kind of buts. There's always a but. There's always a but, and it usually don't smell good. But that but is going to be a huge but. And you have to learn how to make a fire in different ways. If you're going camping, if you're going to go way out in the middle of nowhere for X many days, you have to be able to start a fire. You have to. I see, I lost focus. There we go. You have to be able to start a fire. Because if you cannot start a fire when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to end up catching some kind of waterborne illness. You're not going to be able to heat or cook your food. And, depending on the time of the year, which, yes, you can do hypothermia in the winter, the summertime, but it's not as common. But, fire keeps you warm. And I've watched many episodes on, the TV show Alone, where they didn't have a fire for like a week or something because of the dampness, until they figured it out, until they got everything working. I get it. I understand. And they tried. And these guys understand what to do and they know how to do it. But the regular person that is not the 100% survivalist, that hasn't gone out there and practiced with all these skills, is going to have a hard time starting a fire in perfect conditions. That's why I'm saying get out in the woods. Get out. You don't have to go into the woods. Go walk around your property. Go walk around somewhere. Go walk around the park. If you live in the city, something like that. Identify different tinders that you can make a fire with. Then sit down, practice. Sit down and practice starting a fire with one of these items. Practice. If I realize people live in places where they don't have the freedoms that I do here in South Mississippi, but there's a place where you can go to practice to starting you a fire. You could practice starting your fires in the barbecue pit, at your house, even if you're limited in space, and you could barbecue on your porch, well, put your stuff in there to start you a fire in your barbecue pit and practice starting you a fire. That's what a barbecue pit's for, is for a fire, and it doesn't matter. It's a perfect place for you to practice. There's always a place for you to practice starting your fire. Now, don't be irresponsible and go out there and start a dang wildfire and burn down half of California. That's ridiculous. And, these people that are irresponsible with it, they do the prosecutions for a reason. And, I agree with it. If you do something stupid and you're not paying attention and you're building this ginormous fire, you don't have to have a big fire, And I don't get people. I don't get people at all, There's an inappropriate joke my nephew told me a while back, and it was true. It was like, us Americans like to build a real big fire and sit very far away from it, where the Native Americans, when they were here, they built smaller fires and they sat closer. And, there's a lot to be said in that, not only just about the fire, but about relationships and stuff like that, because, these people that were here before we were mastered these skills without these things. And they mastered fire making. They mastered all these skills, and they were able to, they didn't have to have a ginormous fire. They got real close together, and then that allowed them and their camaraderie and their family and their, all that to be closer together. They were more well knit than we are today. So, but anyway, I can get off of that soapbox. But the practice is not going to make you perfect at anything. Practice is going to make you a little bit better. You're never going to be perfect. The only time you're going to be perfect is after Jesus comes, and takes us back home. And after that, we will be in our perfect bodies. But, this right here is a skill set that you got to practice. It's called a skill. It's life skills. It's stuff that you need to practice in order to make it more valuable, a more valuable skill set, and make it more valuable for yourself and more valuable for your family, if that makes sense. Because if you look at these people that go to these parks and they get lost and they end up, like some of them die because they were ill prepared. They didn't have this in their front pocket. They didn't have an emergency blanket. Like if I'm going on any kind of hiking trip, I have a minimum of emergency blanket, some kind of poncho, like an emergency poncho. I have a compass. I have a fire starting kit, and I have a flashlight. And those things are in my bag that go with me every time I walk into the woods. And literally, if I go squirrel hunting, if I go deer hunting, if I'm going to a place I've been 1,000,000 times in my boat, I'm still bringing all those survival items, because you never know what's going to happen. True story. My brother we were fishing, and we were on the Tennessee River, and we were catching some good fish. We caught a lot of fish, and he was in the boat, and I went out in my boat and checked my lines and checked my noodles and stuff, and then I come back, and nobody had heard from him for hours, and then cell phones didn't work up there. And so my dad comes up to me and says, "Hey, you need to go check on your brother." I'm like, "Dude," it's like, no. He's like, "No, go check on your brother." And I said, "All right." So I get up and I get in my boat and I drive up and down the daggum river looking for my brother. And I see some dude laying on the side of the bank. You know, his boat broke down and couldn't get back. And he had started a fire on the bank and was just sitting there chilling, you know. And it was that resourcefulness that, you know, he just enjoyed the moment that he was in. He was prepared. He was prepared to start him a fire. He was prepared to stay the night because it got cold. He was actually prepared to stay there. And although he was just a couple miles away from where I was at, and he was on some shell bank or, you know, rock, a bunch of seashells and stuff, it was still a opportunity for him to exercise his preparedness, I should say, you know. So, but anyway, I feel like I got off a little track there. But, you know, take your time. You can use matches. If you want to use matches. Dip them in some wax first. That way they don't, get wet and ruined. Matches are extremely well known to get ruined. Matches are very well known to just really be like a dexterity thing. If you get too cold or stuff like that, they break, and you know, you try to do it too hard or too fast, they go out, and you know, but matches they're a viable option to start fires. There's 14 million hacks on the internet. I mean, you got this one guy out there, he's Sergio or whatever his name is, some, you know, he's some Middle European, or I don't know where he's from or whatever. But this dude, he copies everybody on the internet. And, you know, I watched somebody do a hack on how to make pool. I think it was Bushcraft, Bushcraft Kelso or whatever from Georgia Bushcraft or whatever, something like that, where this guy made fire starters, dipped them in wax, and it was pool, and you pull them and they automatically lit. Now don't take me for who I said it was. I don't recall, you know, who it was, but the next day, this other dude made his own video from this guy's and copied him. He copies everybody's everything on the internet. The biggest, you know, Woods Bound Outdoors, he'll make a video, and this other guy, Sergio or whatever his name is, he copies his videos the next day. And as soon as his hits the internet, the other dude has one the next day. Same exact stuff. And, you know, and he never says a word. He just does what's thing. You've probably seen it. It's useless information. Most of it is anyway. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just practice with your stuff. You know, use matches if you want to use matches. Use a big lighter if you want to use a big lighter. Use a flint and steel if you want to use a flint and steel. Use a rock if you want to use a rock. You know, practice different things, because different situations and scenarios are going to present themselves. That's all I'm saying. So, but anyway, all right. So don't forget, go ahead and try out the primitive camping and bushcraft coffee. You know, that stuff's pretty good stuff. I love it. But right now, let's see. You get, I can't remember what they said. If you buy a 5-pound bag, you get like 12 or 15% off or something like that. Go head on over there. I'll leave the link in the thing. You know, and don't forget, the book is still on sale. It's $14 on Amazon right now, and $14.42 or something like that. So check it out. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this. I really appreciate you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video or the next podcast. God bless you.